this from now on. Let me get back to sharing. Okay. All right. Okay. So yeah, so let's get to the Sweetwater case study. The Sweetwater case study, just to sort of prime you in. In general, this setup for a case study is learned by reading, doing, and so on. But also, as I mentioned to you, right, like the kind of things that you can take away from this case study are timeless, even though this is set at an earlier date, much more simpler product, but it kind of walks you through the process. Everything here is valid today, is valid for any process, is actually valid for design of anything, literally, right? In that sense. So the class philosophy is very deeply rooted in design thinking, very human-centered approach, and also we want you to be able to use these frameworks to address real world problems, which is why we kind of set it up with a project and also the interview. So, and we encourage experimentation, right? Like prototyping your ideas. There's no problem failing in your thinking processes and trying things out, right? But also we like to encourage development of what I call T or pie-shaped engineers. You have your depth in all the other classes, but what we try to do is we give you the breadth and the ability to connect diverse things that you have learned or can borrow from other places, repurpose, whatever, right? So promoting that systematic thinking, pushing you to consider not only the product, but more the entire ecosystem, because that influences the product, and incorporating user experience, sustainability, distribution channels, business concepts, all of that come in, right? So learn by doing, right? That's project-based learning. And also, as I said, it's transferable to a lot of other startups or established companies, right? Basically, our central focus is value proposition and value-based design, which is applicable anywhere. Okay. So we also want to sort of transform the way you approach problems. So if this class really has an impact, and it does, I would say for at least 60 to 70%, like your switch will go turn on. And if it turns on, you start approaching a lot of the problems in that you see in a different manner, right? Even if it kind of turns on a little bit, it's also good. But ultimately, we want to foster a growth mindset and ability for you to learn on the go and so on, right? So already talked a little bit about the philosophy of the class, which is sort of related to, yes, we want to see what you do, but we care more about what you learned, not just parroting things, but let's get it to discuss, right? So a lot of it. So open office hours once a week, all that has been announced. Probably looked at all the class workflow, the syllabus, grading philosophy, percentage of points we're going to give for everything. Everything has been laid out. If you have any questions, you can message us on Slack, and then you'll be formed into teams. So we are using a new methodology for forming teams that we have been working on. Hopefully, it's going to work well. Runlin will announce in a day or two, and then you can sign up for Friday and Saturday, where you'll meet me as a team, right? So we want you to get to know each other in the team as well. Okay. So yeah, so exploring product development by focusing on user needs and also the front end of the design process. That's kind of what the Sweetwater case study is going to do. First thing we'll do is we'll try to understand the user environment and the challenges and so on. But also we'll try to understand what we call latent needs. These are needs that people don't state explicitly. Actually wrote a nice article about Steve Jobs and latent needs up in my LinkedIn. You can take a look at it. It sort of talks to understanding user needs, right? Like yeah, he had a very different philosophy, which doesn't apply everywhere. Everybody is not going to be someone like him. But on the other hand, a lot of products in the new age, nobody said I want ChatGPT, for instance, right? Nobody said they want autopilot for this, and a lot of AI-based products, nobody even knew technology has the capability. So there's a lot of things that are going to emerge where you have to create a prototype to understand the user needs. So we have been emphasizing on that part for a long time, right? So making prototype of anything, product, service, user experience, trying it out, that's kind of very central to any design. That's how you can get feedback, right? So, and also the trade-offs that you will have to make. Initially, in any design, you don't have a simulation, you don't have equations, you don't even have CAD models, right? In fact, I encourage more of sketching than creating CAD because you tend to fixate. You put a lot of effort and time in one direction, and then you learn something different. You don't want to change. So we call it fixation. So to that end, we try to help you ideate, so kind of going up doing the um, right thing than doing the thing right. So if you go up the wrong mountain, you're not going to get anything. So how to find good mountains to go upon, right? Like there's no one answer in design. There are many good answers, but certainly there are not so good and bad answers too, right? So, or bad solutions, I should say, not answers. Okay, so let's get going deeper here. So the first thing I want to talk about is we'll talk about the environment. How many of you have done camping here? You can just type everything on chat. I'll be watching your chat. How many of you have done camping? What kind of camping? Trekking, whatever, right? Yeah, go ahead and type in the chat button. Chat, chat. Okay. Minnesota, cool. Tent capping, RV, nothing deprived you of water. Okay, that's fine. A couple of people, Minnesota. All right. Yeah, somebody went to an island with no electricity and running water. That's pretty interesting. Graham, yeah, so maybe you'll have more to think about. More of you, I guess. Yeah, quite a few. That's reasonable. Okay. All right. So yeah, we'll kind of move from there. So yeah, so generally speaking, like yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, there were 12 or 13 of you have done something. Okay. So given that, right, like I'm going to want you to talk about what is going to be a typical environment during capping. So let's talk about the user environment. What's it going to look like?
I've done a lot of camping up in Michigan when I lived there.
Yeah,
So a
just
lot of
type.
that
Yeah,
stuff was
yeah, just
okay.
type. Yeah, type because I want everybody to participate. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just type it all up. Yeah, that way I can get 10 answers or 15. Yeah, just type a few words that you think characterize the environment. Yeah, direct exposure, rugged, um, no amenities. Okay, no electricity, of course. Forested areas, lakes, good, occasional river, hot, warm. So it can be of all kinds, right? Like depending on whether you go up the Himalayas or go in more water deprived areas. Okay. All right. Yeah, a few more. Cold at night. Yes, that can happen, right? Changes in elevation, good. Uncontrolled environment, dirty, changes in temperature. All of that is good, right? Anything else? Yeah, more vivid description of your of the environment. Cool. Let me see. Yeah, clean, reusable. Yeah, so you okay. Yeah, mainly the environment. I'm not really interested in water or bottles or anything of that kind. And just the environment. Okay, I'm going to start typing some of the things I'm hearing from you in. Okay. Okay. So remote, hot, could be humid, freezing or below, no amenities. Breaks, rested. Few other things. What else can you notice in such environments? Small springs, yeah, and wildlife. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. I'll add a few more things. Be all kinds, right? Okay. So yeah, some reasonable description of the environment. I mean, I showed you much more pristine one, but basically, it's going to be hard to collect water in these kind of environments. Um, all these were I worked hard with AI to generate something realistic here. But yeah, basically you can see there's animals and it can be of different types and kinds, but also you'll see that these kinds of bacteria and protozoa have been getting smaller. Some of them are extremely small, right? Like they can be of 20 to zero point 0.2 microns. Viruses are much smaller than that. And people tend to boil water oftentimes and sometimes use iodine and so on. But yeah, in general, you kind of see that these issues, the streams of water are not very clear anymore. A lot of hazards, silt, a lot of invisible hazards, and there's a lot of contamination these days in drinking water. So certainly you don't want to get cramps or become sick and so on and so forth. And of course, these days we pay more for water than gasoline sometimes, right? Like, and I never expected in my younger days that we'll be paying so much for bottled water. But yeah, certainly water conditions have changed, and similarly, our equipment and others that devices and other things that we use around us that help us uh, live in this kind of an environment has changed, right? So let's kind of move to the next step. I want you to now describe the user, right? What are the types of people that we see that are going for camping, right? Let's describe the nature of the user. So first thing, as I said, like the user environment, and then the user now, right? So let's talk about the user. So how do you characterize a user in these environments? Like who are the typical users of who are the type of people that go camping, right? Yeah, cool. Outdoorsy people, athletic, good. Yeah, yeah. Adventurous, committed, like outdoors. Yeah, concern for conservation. That's even more so now, right? Definitely. small groups of people, individual campers, not afraid to get dirty, adventurous, yeah, connected, adventurous, outdoorsy, well-educated. A little bit more I want to see, right? Like can be active, tend to plan ahead, healthy. Okay, okay, okay. There's one more thing I'm looking for that kind of maybe characterizes a lot of such people. Yeah, yeah, I'll give you some hints. Typically, when you are trying to sell something, looking for products to sell, yeah, free time is good, yeah, but also, yeah, cost, I don't know, right? Like they have dollar to spend. That's I think important. Yeah, that's exactly CP, part of design is figuring out how to get into other person's wallet, right? Whether it's another company you're selling to or whoever, who's got the money, are they willing to pay, right? So yeah, let's put that down. So some of the things you said are young. Usually higher income. Okay, so yeah, that's good. So um if you have been in some market or you yourself are a prototype of a potential user, that can be a advantage. It also has some disadvantages, but in general, its advantage is that you understand the market, right? Like who you're selling to, whether it's another business or sometimes you're selling to a business and that so B2B, and that business is selling to a customer, right? Then we call it B2B2C. So you have to really understand the customer even then, because you're selling to a business that sells to a customer, right? So all of those are important characteristics. Okay, now we'll get to some more interesting things. Let's talk about the user needs, right? What about the user needs? How do you characterize the user needs of well, in this case, we are into water filtration, right? So, like, what are the needs of the user? Okay, let me come to it in a minute. Okay, well, it has to clean the water, definitely. Without that, there's no product, right? Yeah, clean water, that's primary. Yeah, okay. Easy to pack. Okay, all right. Let's see what you guys are thinking of here. Okay, light. Okay, extra setup. Okay, compact, self user friendly, light. Okay, light for robust. Okay, da, da, da. Portable, lightweight. Water tastes good. Okay, reliable, lightweight, long lasting, durable. Okay, a bunch of stuff is coming out. It's good. Clean water, yeah. So yeah, yeah. Let's. I need more. Yeah, it's efficient. Um, Yeah, all these are characterized by words, right? Like, and different people will be using different words to characterize it. So put it all down. There's no like exact thing here. In fact, you go through a process to figure out and group them and so on and so forth, right? So yeah, minimal components, filter small enough particles. Yeah, cool status. I like that. That's good. Anything else? Yeah, don't go to indicate like that's a product feature. We are still talking of user needs, right? They were talking about the user side, not the product side. Yeah, always in this stage, never jump to the product side. You want to only focus on use environment, and really understand the problem deeply. Yes, in many cases, technology does have a solution, and sometimes you can end up with solution looking for problems, which is I kind of think like a lot of the AI stuff is like that, right? Like uh, it's a big hammer looking for nails, right? But in general, one of the golden mantras in any design process is to achieve a product market fit, which is a moving target. We'll talk a lot about it later, but yeah, focus on the always on the user needs. That's the mantra here. Okay, few more things. Okay, I'm going to just jump in here, get them in. So the filter status, I kind of will not. I'll put it in here anyway. Size, compact. So that's a primary requirement. If it doesn't filter, then there's no go, right? So that's kind of like a you have to have it, right? And as products move up the ladder, people will expect a lot of things. That's why like you find very advanced features in more expensive products or in race cars and so on, but they sort of come down, right? Like cars like 15 years ago, 20 years ago did not have too many features, right? So the expectations of people go up in time. It's a moving target. The next set of iPhones will all have AI, so people will get used to it, and after some time, they won't buy phones without AI, right? So that's kind of evolution of products. In fact, all these big companies are all like rushing for what might be a extremely big market. Yeah, look is always important for product design, right? Like that's why they have a lot of all these companies typically have very few of them, industrial designers, right? Like they are sort of like dealing with some of these other things that engineers often uh, don't go into that deeply. Okay, so we have a decent number. Yeah, mainly just to have enough so we can do something with it, right? You need stuff to design to, you need to build requirements, and getting the requirements in the right zone is very critical. So you typically put everything on the table. And what we are doing here is a simple product, and we are able to think through and do it. That's why we are doing it here. But in general, as you can imagine, um, this process, the front end, can itself take time, right? It takes time to figure out user needs and requirements in many situations to get it right. But yeah, also note that we just pointed this out, right? Like the pathogens and everything, they can go all the way from viruses. Roughly your hair diameter is maybe 40, 50 microns, right? Like, so kind of look at the scale here, right? And then you have the leaves and the grit and the grime and everything too, right? So varying scales. Okay, so now given all of this, right? Um, we kind of talked a little bit about like, okay, it has to guarantee filtering of bacteria and protozoa. It has to have adequate volume and rate, right, of purified thing. And also things like easy to assemble, disassemble, compact, fit into a small space, and then ruggedness does not break. These all are things. And what we try to do is mainly, as I said, don't discuss specifications at this point, but at this stage, till you are like fully exhausted, right? You got all of this. But then the question is, how do I convert this into a product that actually works and the people using it are happy, they think they paid something, they got a lot out of it, and you got happy customers, right? How do you go from here to a product, right? So that's the question that we are going to sort of try to answer. And one way to do that is to start structuring the needs. So the way that I typically recommend in many situations is, if you're in a bigger room, right, like write all this down. You'll have like 100 of these, right, like of 70 of these, right? Put it all on post-it notes in a compact manner, put it on a wall, and then you go around, look at each other's, and then you start grouping similar ones. Okay, like yeah, weight and compact and all of these, ergonomic, they all might go in one somewhat similar zone. Then the others related to maintenance and so on, others related to effort and so on, right? Like, and yeah, so somebody mentioned filter status and so on. That'll be another. So you kind of put it on the wall, and then you start figuring out and start grouping it. So there are many user needs. Oh, what can we do to move towards product requirements? That's the question I raised, right? Like, so this is a very simple two by two graph. I like a lot of two by twos, and even if it is much more complex, I try to reduce something to the essential elements, right? The most important elements you want to have. So in that sense, what you have in the x-axis is the fulfillment of the need. Far right is, you're fulfilling it very well, and far left is not fulfilling it at all. And upwards, y-axis is customer satisfaction, very satisfied, and down, customer is not satisfied at all. Okay, so that is the general sense of this graph. So what we are wanting to do in this graph, let me kind of draw here. So if you have something is like a must-have, right? Like it has to filter. If it doesn't filter, you're done with. So it's extremely negative, right? And then it has to filter. So like there's nothing like you have to fulfill the need. So these are like the must-haves kind of go in this kind of a curve, right? This is not math, right? This is just conceptually what some function does when you satisfy or don't satisfy it. So if something is like totally flat, what does it mean? Like whether you have it or don't have it doesn't matter. That's what it means. So like the customer is indifferent to it, doesn't care, right? Doesn't care, right? So does not matter, right? A lot of things kind of fall here. I'm just going to draw a line, but like it's not, don't think too seriously about it being exact line and all that. But the basic idea is, people are happy. The more of it, they are happier, right? It could be like this, it could be like this, whatever it is. It's all like a somewhat more, I would say, linear, right? So has to filter, cannot break when you fall during normal use. Um, and if all other filters become default, they don't break, then it'll become a must-have for you too. Too bad, right? Like that's how design goes. Um, and maybe usable by a single person by two hands is also a must-have, the ergonomic, right? That part of the need that you put in, if you peel that, that's probably what it's going to come down to, right? Yeah, if you have to like sit on it and jump on it, right? That's definitely not worth it. But yeah, basically, you can kind of say that the linear satisfiers are things like cost, maybe, I would say. And I'll draw a later graph, which is more nuanced thinking about similar things, right? About evolution of products, how these things change over time. That's something you guys have to be more sensitive to, right? Anything that you buy, do, see, product or service, right? There was only one McDonald's now. Now you have Starbucks, right? Like they just, when I came to this country, not many people drank really strong coffee, right? They just changed the culture. So things change over time, right? Expectations change. Now these smartphones are not a phone anymore. They take extremely good pictures. They kill the camera. They do voice recording. They do so many things, right? Like um, so in that sense, things change. So be sensitive to change. And linear satisfiers could be like you purify more water between cleanings or filter replacement, or purifies faster, weighs less, takes less space. They all could be kind of linear, right? Um, and then there could be things that maybe I think one of you pointed out, right? Like, oh yeah, this is really cool. I didn't expect to have it, but now I have it, right? So that's kind of like you're really delighted. You didn't even expect to have it. So though you kind of like become extremely happy when that happens, right? So these are like the delighters. So anyway, these are just like general ways of thinking about um, people and how happy they are, or how the fulfillment of need and the customer satisfaction are represented just in a two by two. And a lot of the needs that you have can all be put into something like this, just for grouping purposes. Okay, now we're kind of going to start thinking about, well, what do? You go into the market and then you find, um, in this case, there were only two other products. If you take water filtration devices today, you're going to find very different kind of products, which are maybe even more different and sophisticated than what they were dealing with. But at that time, when Plattner wanted to enter this market, actually, they were going after, if you read the case study properly, they were going after something very different initially. And, and then all of a sudden they pivoted. He said, "Oh, I know a lot about, like I know how to use design tools. We know how to filter water. We have a lot of experience in related technology, right? So let's get into we do camping." So they knew the user base very well. So they said, "Okay, we know about materials to filter. Let's get in," right? So they kind of changed their target market completely, or product completely, right? But basically, these were two products in the market. First need, right? So any company you go to, right, they're going to open up competitors' product and really study it deeply, right? So when I was out at GM, they were opening every other vehicle, right? Like it's all there. And so yeah, and then a lot of these things here in this table you may not get directly out of the product specs and everything, but a lot of it you may have to measure and get differently. But something like unit price, right? $50, 200, $260. So question is, what do they offer at that price, right? This way is 23 ounces. This is 11. Well, zero point 0.7 flow liters per minute, zero point 0.5 resistance is much higher here. It is much lower, etc. Right? Replacement filter is higher, but then the claimed capacity, this one is 5,000 gallons. It's only 100. So you see, obviously, you're getting some things not so good. Um, some things are better based on the price, right? So question of how the customer values the idea of, well, I'm going to, cost of filtering so much is a little higher, but I'm going to get a huge claim capacity, so I'm going to go for this, right? So there is the market for 260. There's the market for 52. Uh, so oftentimes another way to think about it is where can you, when you have when you're entering a market, right? You enter because you have some unfair advantage. You know something the competitors don't know. You can bring some new feature into it which the customer is going to value, and these guys can't change their product to meet that feature, right? Those are all the kinds of things that you need to have. It's not like actually people say, "Oh, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm going to take risk." I kind of think it's the other way around. I think you know a lot so that your list risk is lower. So you say, okay, I know so much more than these guys. I'm going to enter the market. So my risk is going to be much lower than them. Of course, as an entrepreneur, you do take risk, right? Like just being an entrepreneur itself is is a risky thing to do. But moving forward, right? Like you can see that there are other differences like chlorination, brushing for filter cleaning, and so on and so forth. So you open it up and you start seeing like what are they doing? How are they doing? Okay. And the first needs case is a separate outflow tubing, separate carbon filter, a little bit more clumsier, more parts, but all of them are using a pump handle. You might think, hey, why not have a levered pump, right? Why not have a levered pump? Anybody want to say like any um, things not so good in having a levered pump or like using your foot to pump, either of those compared to using hands in a linear manner like here? Well, if you look at it, both the compositors were like hands in a linear manner. Yeah, exactly. Space reliability takes more space and bulkier. Exactly. Yeah. If you have more parts, right, it's more problem. That's why you see all the direct drive and all, they're all getting rid of all the transmission, everything. Put the motor right on the wheel, right? You couldn't do that 10, 15 years ago. Motors have become much more powerful. But that said, the less number of parts, the better off you are, right? So all of those things. You'll have bigger supply chain, more sourcing, more things to put together, basically more things to worry about. You want less things to worry about. So yeah, all of that. So yeah, but also like your forces may go up because you're pumping directly with the hand. So you have to be clever about your design, right? That's what it comes down to in some ways. And then the pocket filter, well, this has the ceramic filter and all that. Like if it falls, this guy is going to break, right? Ceramic is much more brittle. You kind of look at all of that. Okay, there's also a handle, there's a hose, the strainer is right here. Maybe it looks somewhat better. So kind of think about all of this. So kind of let's talk about user needs. So what I'm going to do now in the last exact like 13 minutes or 10 minutes or so, a lot of you said easy to use. Okay, let's peel that up. What do you mean by easy to use? What is easy to use? Let's try to break it down now, assuming that we're kind of going after some kind of a cylindrical linear filtering device, right? What's easy to use? Okay, let me, not heavy, good. Well, no user manual, but yeah, okay, fine. That's good. Don't need it. Okay, what else? Let's talk about a lot of, yeah, effort. Thank you. Minimal effort, not excessive force. Very good. Okay. So yeah, let's. I want to hear more about easy to use thing. And this easy to use shows up for every product, obviously, right? But the devil is in the detail. What do you mean by it? Um, right. It's like you talk and you type. That's easy to use, right? Um, no need for complex assembly. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, just put yourself in the pump case, right? What is, what will be easy to use? Think of you filtering the water. Here, let me switch to that image if you want to see somebody. So what is easy to use here? Let's, yeah, give me a little bit more. Yeah, yeah, now see, two hands or less, right? Clearly. Yeah, only Indian gods have a lot of hands. So, um, all right. So, yeah, and then like, how are you going to stand, right? Like ergonomics also comes in, bending, standing, kneeling, right? Like, how are you going to reach the water, um, right? Few steps, very good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, quick in and out. You have to take it out of the bag and like put it back. You want it in and out quickly. You guys kind of talked a little bit about it when we talked about the handle, right? Like if you had a handle, you'll have more parts. Maybe you need a gear and all that. So, how much force can a human apply? Anybody? Rough number? I did some research on that a while ago. Yeah, stable when on uneven ground. That's good. But yeah, what about the force that humans can? Yeah, okay, that's reasonable, right? So yeah, basically, like um, and then about you can apply two kilograms for 1 minute, like four for like a little bit less force, a little bit longer time, right? That way, right? So think of it in that sense. Um, yeah, in that way, if you look at it, how do I now we are going to like not stop at this. I want you to talk about this, right? We talked about needing less effort, but also we want more water with less effort. So how are these things related? So all these user needs are not like standalone. Obviously, they're all coupled, but let's kind of see like what's going on, right? Um, so you have to hold it with, let's say you're holding it with one hand. So that's one piece of the ergonomics, right? And then you have to apply a force. How is it related to how much water you can pump? The force that yeah, fatigue is an issue, but let's keep that apart, right? Like, so you're pushing the water. You want more water per stroke. Let's assume that, right? And higher filtration quality, right? Like, how are these related? Okay, so you push with one hand. So, um, inverse to what? Yeah, thank you. So the area, right? The filter media and the area, right? So if you have a very heavy filter, it's going to be pretty hard. You're probably going to filter a lot of the small guys by putting a micro size filter. It's going to be hard if it's thicker, right? So yeah, force divided by area is pressure. That's it. And so if you start forcing the liquid into extremely small channels, you'll get only reasonable rate. Uh, so what do? You make the diameter higher, you can get more water. But what's the problem if you make the diameter higher? Let's make it, yeah, well, more than that. Can you hold it? No, you can't hold it, right? So you just can't hold it. If so ergonomics is gone, right? Like you can't hold it. So ergonomics, you need hold and you need to push both, right? And as some of you pointed it out, right? Like we need something with rather modest dimensions, but we need to apply the pressure using human strength. Um, and yeah, so you go for it, and the filter size can't be very large. So we have to think about that. Because these guys knew a lot about filtration, they actually were kind of clever about it. We'll talk about it in a few moments. But basically, the idea of determining a pump size, as you start realizing now, is not that easy. You have to start experimenting with different filters, and then you got to get the leaves too and the grit too. not just the point 2 micron stuff, right? So these guys kind of did something clever. They actually used this two filtration, right? Charcoal and the microfilter. That way, like they get the small guys with the charcoal, they get this with the microfilter, and the total pressure is more, I would kind of loosely use the word more optimized now, right? For what they want to do. So yeah, that is some way you can think, right? Like you can think about it, and then of course you try to reduce the number of parts. So all of these things go hand in hand on how you can filter better, and you kind of figure out like what's the best area. So for you to filter for a cylindrical shape device with the optimal force, figure that out. And then you sort of yeah, basically while doing this, these guys actually figure out a target price also, right? They kind of went in the lower end, but also they used Lexan. They knew about it, and they kind of got um, much lower cost to filter, right? But with similar claim capacity. So they started attacking the competition in a different way, and you can see that the pump resistance force also came down because of their construction, right? Um, and then they also had a replacement indicator. Somebody talked about like a pressure release valve and all that, right? So yeah, that was what they went after. Sort of coming back, as you can see, right? User needs, peeling it out, understanding the user needs, structuring them, grouping them, finding relationships between them, and then designing to it, right? Like this is a process that you have to go through, converting like very raw things to actual numbers and figures. Of course, if you have, if you're an automotive, you create a digital car like the BMW and you crash it, right? You're not even spending money on a real car. So a lot of things go digitally as well. Okay, there's some comments here. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, what was the, yeah, that was the finished filter design, activated charcoal with the other one. Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah, if there's other stuff, I'll put it up in the slides. Yeah, you won't find a lot of this there, but maybe you will. I don't know. Right? Yeah. Okay. So that's not the point. I want you to still think through. So must be's require in the linear and then the attractive, right? Like all of that is sort of depicted here in this figure. But also you can see that in time, right? Like some of these expectations go up and things move from top to bottom, right? Like or from left to right below, right? In time, the excitement attributes kind of like become a part of more common expectations and products evolve in that way. Um, and also yeah, there are different depictions of all these different attributes. You have all of those, and think of the Kino Here's examples of it, right? Like for location-based services and so on and so forth, right? Like high-end camera, video conferencing, fingerprint lock, variety of apps, right? Like those, and then like initially you had a telephone number redial, directory, fault-free, calling conference, MP3, right? Like um, so 2000, we had put a old big fat Motorola phone. It was so huge. It's like a brick. In fact, I have it like right on the shelf here. So yeah, you kind of see how those things change. Sort of keep this in mind here as you come out. This figure is going to be very central to the thinking in class. There are other things we'll add to it, but this is the basic one, right? The basic ideas like the desirability, um, like do we have a customer willing to pay for it? Feasibility, technical, desirability is human. Can we build it? Will it work? Right? And viability is business oriented. Does the business value um, outweigh the cost, right? Keep these three in mind. the center is the sweet spot that defines the product, right? And then if you're outside on the left, right, like it won't pay for itself because it's not viable, or feasible and viable but not desirable. That means it doesn't fit the purpose the customer wants it for. And if desirable and viable are met, not feasible, basically can't deliver it, right? So just a mental model. Keep this in mind. This is sort of very, like I said, central to the basics of this class, right? Like desirability, feasibility, viability. Like the complexity, you should be able to reduce it and present it in very quick way. It's a good way to think about it. Okay, that's all we have today, guys. So exactly on time. Boy, this time was like 1 minute off. I wasn't looking at the clock, so that was good. Yeah, this is the latest sketch that I made and gave it to an artist to do. I'm iterating on it. This is the first version of it. Um, when I get to the refined version, hopefully towards the end of the class, you'll see it on the background. All right. The actual painting is there on the wall on the right. Take care, guys. See you. Bye.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep.